Welcome to 60 Skills. Today's lesson is how to chant with a mala. You'll notice there's a bit of a pause in there when I say this. That's because we're actually going to learn how to use two distinct skills. The first of which is how to chant or how to exploit the use of mantra. The second of which is how to use a foci, in this case a string of beads, or what some refer to as a mala. Now there are a variety of reasons for doing all of this. First of all, you need to understand that the proper chanting of any given mantra involves utilizing energy across 4 levels of reality. Those levels being the Akashic, the mental, the astral, and what some call the vital or the material. Now, the use of your mala or foci becomes interesting. This is utilized for a number of reasons. First of all, with many mantras that you will be chanting, there is a number requirement in order to essentially unlock that mantra, meaning you have to use it for a certain number of recitations first. Additionally, the use of a mala, string of beads, or other focus allows you to store energy, both within the mala itself and typically within the egregore surrounding that particular mantra. Now, as storehouses of energy, these mantras have projected effects associated with them, which quite frankly is the reason why most people are in fact chanting a mantra. They're doing it in order to accomplish something. Whether this involves moving up the path of enlightenment or going down the chain of manifestation in order to cause a given effect simply depends upon the direction that you are pushing that energy in and the intention of a given mantra. So understand the big takeaway from all of this is that mantras are both storehouses of energy, both subtle and gross, and a method by which a given task is accomplished, be that achievement or enlightenment, or something more along the lines of thaumaturgy or miracle working. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. The requirement for learning how to chant with a mala is, first of all, you need to, at a minimum, be able to pour breathe, engage vital energy. The course, How to Build a Chi Ball, can teach you how to do this if you do not already know this technique. Additionally, you will of course require a focus or foci of some kind. For this course, I prefer to use a mala, but the fact of the matter is, whatever you choose to use as your meditative point of focus is fine, as long as you have one handy. Being able to work with the other energies, Akashic, mental, and astral, will definitely accelerate your benefits with this coursework. But again, at a minimum, you will require the ability to perform pour breathing, and you will need a focus of some kind to work with. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss the Akashic level of reality as it applies to chanting or the use of a mantra. First of all, you need to understand that when you're chanting a given mantra, you need to perform it across the 4 levels of reality. If you have the ability, you will want to start with the Akashic level of reality. Now, this level of reality deals with the origins of things. And as we mentioned earlier, all mantras have an egregore associated with them. So this tends to bring a lot of baggage with a mantra, both good and in some cases bad. By engaging a mantra at the Akashic level of development, you are dealing with its most non-dual aspect. Now, while this is the least applicable to the physicality of the here and now, it is also the key that unlocks the rest of the mantra. It also allows you to access the ability and stored energy of that mantra in its most pure form. As a result of which, this is a very important thing to start with, and perhaps one of the most important parts about accessing a mantra. Because as this mantra goes down the chain of manifestation into the mental, into the astral, and then finally when vibrated into the physical, the nature of the mantra and its effects also change. The mantra itself becomes much more dual in orientation, and this baggage associated with the egregore surrounding that mantra becomes much more noticeable. Also keep in mind, it also depends what level of effect you're looking for. If you're simply looking for information, then the Akashic level of reality is quite possibly the only one that you will wish to work with. As a functional matter, when practiced over time, this will in fact bleed down into the mental. But at those levels, the dual nature of the mantra, and therefore any developments that have gone into its egregore, will in fact be quite minor in comparison to what you get when you move down into the astral and vital elements of that mantra. But that non-dual and mental level expression of the mantra will also be much less physical in nature. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss the mental level nature of a given mantra. Now, as was discussed earlier, the Akashic level of the mantra is its most non-dual or pure form of how a mantra works. Now, it is also the level that unlocks use of a mantra in general. The mental level of a mantra is performed very similarly to its Akashic level. In this case, you will be silently on the outside, but internally repeating the sound of the mantra over and over again, and there may be a color or concept that you're holding to. When you generate the mantra at the mental level, this is where most of the information associated with a given mantra comes from. So if you're chanting a mantra in order to become a better doctor, this is primarily where you're going to want to be working. And the reason for this is also the fact that once you get below the mental level manifestation of something, its dual nature really begins to take form. And this is where the baggage associated with the egregore surrounding that mantra starts to become an issue. So it depends on what you want to use a mantra for regarding how far down the chain of manifestation you are going to take that mantra. Most people, when performing a mantra silently, are in fact performing it at a mental level. This will generate a lot of energy at the mental level of reality, but if it is not first performed at the Akashic level, sometimes they're going to have difficulty accessing the energy of the mantra writ large. Also notice that the information generated at the mental level will be slightly less non-dual in nature and more specific to the current cultural basis of the mantra than the Akashic level of performing the mantra. Now, none of this is good and none of this is bad. These are simply things that have to be taken at face value. Now, you also are going to have a difference in the amount of time you need to spend at each level of reality. The fact of the matter is you don't need to spend much time at the Akashic level to access what is there when you have the ability to do that. The mental level requires a bit more. And later on, we're going to be talking about something called the 4-6-2 formula that dictates how you should chant a given mantra. So keep in mind, when you're generating a mantra at the mental level, this will be done silently, potentially while holding a color or sensation or concept in mind. Because as we've spoken about at length in the 60 Skills curriculum, the mental level is the level of concepts without boundaries. Things like true morality. What is the nature of enlightenment? What is the meaning of the color blue? Once you can provide a spatial orientation to something, you are now beginning to talk about, at a minimum, its astral component. And we will get to that next. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss the astral level of existence relative to how to chant a mantra with a mala. All right, the astral level of existence, as has often been discussed in the 60 Skills curriculum, is the key part of reality where magic happens. Quite simply said, anything manifested long enough with enough energy that can in fact physically manifest at the physical level, in other words, that is physically possible, will eventually manifest. So the astral level of performance of a mantra is very, very, very important. Now, normally this layer of existence is concerned with things like energy, sensation, and things that can be visualized that have spatial constraints. So this is a fancy way of stating something that has a form associated with it. For example, the astral projection of this bottle will, for the most part, look like a bottle. Now, where this becomes important relative to the performance of a given mantra, this is the level at which you begin to vocalize. Now, when performing a given mantra at the astral level, you will softly whisper the sound associated with that mantra. Additionally, for those of you who know how, you will be pore breathing, preferably astral energy at this point, although vital energy, interestingly enough, works well too, and we will get to that in a moment. Now, the key here is that you have to have built up a battery of reservoir of energy at the astral level before you can charge it into the physical in order to have a given effect. This is very important. Additionally, the more energy you charge into the astral before you engage the physical, the stronger the effect will be. And we'll get to that in a moment. But the thing to realize is that the astral is an intermediate level of existence between the higher non-dual realms and the more physically tangible physical realms. As a result, this is something that you have to spend a lot of time working on, because the simple fact of the matter is, the more energy that you bridge into the astral, you then have available for transmutation either into the physical or up the path of enlightenment into the mental and non-dual realms. So, to sum up, the astral level of chanting a mantra involves quietly saying the mantra over and over again in a whisper. You don't want the ligaments and tendons to vibrate in the body. That is actually a physical level effect. Additionally, you will probably want to maintain a color, sensation, or concept at the same time, all while performing astral breathing. This is the most efficacious way of generating astral energy with your mantra. This is also a level of reality at which you can begin to store energy within your string of beads, your mala, or your other focus, because that sound moves energy as well. Next, we will discuss how to chant a mantra at the vital or physical level. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss how to chant with a mala at the vital or physical level. All right, as was discussed previously, chanting at the higher levels of reality can unlock access to a given mantra and also build up a dam of energy at the astral level. Now, when you vocalize the mantra, this is where you release the energy that's stored up at the astral level down into the physical in order to accomplish whatever it is that mantra chooses to do. Whether that is a rapid elevation into the non-dual realms, so you can manifest non-dual light, or to generate a physical effect involved with, say, healing, simply depends upon the nature of the mantra itself. But this is the important part to keep in mind. In order to generate that physical effect with the mantra, you first have to store energy up at the subtle levels. If you haven't done that, there is essentially no gas in the tank to convert over into an effect. So that physical vocalization of the mantra is in many ways like turning a generator on and having an engine fire and turn over. This is where you take the latent energy of the stored petroleum in your gas tank and turning it into kinetic energy. The analogy involving mantras is very similar. So keep in mind, if you only chant a mantra out loud and make a vocalization with it, chances are not much is going to happen. What will happen, however, is you will be feeding a little bit of energy into that egregore or astral level battery that the mantra belongs to. And we'll get to the issue of ritual and mantra in a minute. So keep in mind that while vocalizing aloud a mantra is turning the engine over in the car in order to make it move, or generating power from that petroleum in a gas tank, it isn't how you put gas into the tank, and it's not the fuel in the tank either. That silent repetition at the Akashic level that unlocks the mantra, the exploration of the idea of what the mantra does, and then the storage of energy at the astral level is what generates the fuel and fills the tank. The vocalization is what turns the engine over. Now let's talk a little bit about vocalization and mantra. All right, this is really important and not something that is particularly well understood. Vocalization is an interesting technique that bridges the astral and the physical. This is one of the reasons why it is ubiquitous, or basically seen in every system of practical magic out there. Whether you're talking aspects of Tibetan Buddhism, or Western Hermetics, or any other shamanistic system, there's a reason why people chant a lot. And the simple fact of the matter is, by chanting, by the making of sound, you are generating a sensation that propagates through the ligaments and tendons and fascia tissue in the body. This then allows for a very easy and effective projection out of the astral into the physical. So it's basically a mandatory technique if you're trying to do anything involving thaumaturgy, or in other words, practical magic. With a great deal of experience, you can in fact generate that rumbling in the ligaments and tendons and fascia tissue silently, but the simple fact of the matter is that's a relatively uncommon skill and takes a very long time to develop. If you're not doing this and you're just continuing to perform at the astral level, you will occasionally have spontaneous discharges of energy into the physical. These, however, are uncontrolled and relatively useless for the accomplishment of what the mantra is designed to do at this physical level of existence. Now, there is one big disadvantage to all of this. One, this is energetically expensive. And two, the more physical you make the mantra, particularly at the astral and vital levels, the more the egregore, or dual nature of that mantra, begins to manifest as well. This is not necessarily bad, but it is something to be kept in mind. So, to sum up, use of a mantra at the physical level or vital level requires a vocalization out loud of that mantra. In doing so, you are going to feel a rumbling or rolling of energy in the ligaments, tendons, and fascia tissue in the body. This occurs as that energy bridges from the astral storehouse down into that vital or physical manifestation. And again, in order to do this, you have to have energy stored up on the astral first, akin to filling an engine's tank with petroleum or other fuel. No fuel, there's nothing for the engine to work with. Also understand that if you just start your repetitions of a mantra with its physical vocalization, most of what you're going to be doing is feeding the egregore associated with that mantra, as small amounts of energy from that vocalization peel off and go back into that astral storehouse that the greater mantra actually belongs to. Now we will discuss ritual and other effects involving chanting. Let us begin. Welcome to SixtySkills. We will now discuss the use of foci. What are foci? Foci are plural for focus. In this case, the focus we will be using will be a mala, a string of beads, or a rosary. Now, there are a variety of reasons to use this particular kind of focus. This string of beads can be used as a counting device, so you can count the number of recitations you are engaging in. It can also be used to circulate energy, such as up the back and down the front, or up the front and down the back, depending upon the direction that the beads are pushed. Finally, a focus can also be used to store energy. In this case, in my personal focus, I have a variety of gemstones stored in this glass and copper tube. These things in turn can hold quite a charge when utilized over time. My personal focus has many thousands of hours of Kabbalistic letter practice performed over it. As such, whenever I engage the use of those letters for something actively, as we will begin to do in a moment when we actually chant, it greatly strengthens my ability to engage that energy, because I've stored a tremendous amount of energy at the astral level within my focus. So foci are ubiquitous, and almost all systems of practice have these. What's most interesting is that if you ever take a trip to an ancient history museum and have sensitivity to energy at a physical level, all you need to do is place your hands over some of these older foci, and you will be amazed by the amount of energy or charge they still have. I personally have had students go into ancient history museums and actually have conversations with spirits that are captured inside of these things. It's a very interesting situation to observe. But for those of you familiar with ancient Egyptian magic or ancient Greek magic or older Tibetan Buddhism magic or any of the like, you'll notice that many of the tools used look pretty much exactly the same. A string of beads, gems stored in a tube or on a chain, wands with gems of one kind or another attached to them, metallic crowns, certain kinds of metallic rings, amulets. I mean, the fact of the matter is, in this line of work, the tools utilized really haven't changed much in the last several thousand years. And as has been mentioned previously, if you go to a museum where these things have been properly stored, and if you can get close enough, what you'll find is that many of them carry a considerable charge even today. So understand, the point of a focus is to provide a physical representation for the mantra or magical act you are about to begin to engage in. Additionally, they can be used as storage units in the here and now that you can access at later points in time. And if you are careful in their construction, can be utilized for quite literally anything. I will end this short lecture by mentioning a focus that you build yourself invariably is much more powerful than a highly refined focus you buy from someone else. The reason for this is not entirely clear, but keep in mind the concept that power and strength are built as the result of focusing energy over time. In something you actually took the time to build yourself is going to have much more energy and much more power associated with it. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss the role of a mantra. Now, a mantra has effects at a variety of levels of reality, and we've just discussed those for quite a bit. Additionally, mantra has effects at the level of ritual, at the level of egregore, and at the level of projection. In these three things, ritual, egregore, and projection, are all interrelated. So first of all, let's talk about the ritual aspect of doing something. Ritual performance of things, particularly mantra, has the effect of building up an energetic reservoir around that mantra. So every time somebody chants a mantra aloud, a little bit of the energy associated with that chanting whisks off to that energetic storehouse and keeps that mantra alive. This is one of the reasons why mantras can exist for thousands and thousands of years and still be effective, because a little bit of something gets put away there every time somebody uses it aloud. Now, as we've talked about before, anything involving energy pertains to the astral or, in fact, the dual worlds. So the thoughts and wishes and backgrounds of everybody who's used that mantra over whatever period of time it's existed get whisked away to that astral storehouse. Now, this isn't good and it isn't bad, but again, this is one of the reasons why older mantras tend to be much more effective, but also older mantras have to be approached with an element of caution. If they're not accessed explicitly from the non-dual level, you're going to end up pulling a lot of things through a practitioner in the modern world that were placed there a very long time ago by people who viewed reality through a very different lens. Now, this now leads to the issue of an egregore. As has often been mentioned in coursework in 60 Skills, anytime you get more than one person together, you end up forming an egregore, or storehouse of astral energy surrounding whatever it is they're doing. Again, this is neither good nor bad, but it does mean that various spirit figures will either be generated or attracted to that astral storehouse of energy. And your interaction with those entities will start the second you begin to use a given mantra. Again, neither good nor bad. This is simply a statement of fact. Nature in itself abhors a vacuum and will attract things to it, and such is the story at the astral level. Finally, we get into the issue of projection. Working with a given mantra projects energy both to its astral storehouse, but because you're utilizing vocalization, which as we stated earlier is an excellent bridge between the astral and the physical, particularly when rolled through the ligaments, tendons, and fascia tissue in the body, this is what allows a mantra to generate effects at a physical level that are supercharged compared to simply doing it using astral energy without the vocalization. Because the fact of the matter is, when you vocalize something, you are both ripping energy out of the astral into the physical to generate the effect you're looking for, but you're also pulling energy from the higher levels of reality into and through that astral level as well. So by generating at the physical, you're compounding the effect generated at the astral by utilizing the draw-through effect. This is the key to how the chain of manifestation operates. In its reverse, this is how the path of enlightenment operates by transmutation of energy from the more physical or solid to the more ethereal and eventually non-dual. So the chain of manifestation and the path of enlightenment are both powerfully manipulated by the use of mantra. And this, in fact, is the most important aspect of utilizing mantra or chanting in general. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss the role of the 4-6-2 formula when chanting a given mantra. What is 4-6-2? 4-6-2 is a very old Hermetic formula in which a practitioner performs 2 recitations of a given mantra at the Akashic level, 60 recitations of a given mantra at the mental level, and 400 recitations at the astral level before performing a single vocalization at the physical level. This is a very potent way of bridging a large amount of energy at the astral level before shooting it down into the vital. It is a way of supercharging the magical effects of whatever you are in fact working on. Now, performance of this is rather slow. Utilizing this technology will take anywhere from 45 minutes to over 2 hours, depending upon how quickly you astrally chant those 400 recitations. And in terms of elevating energy, doesn't really seem to be all that necessary. It is something that is worth mentioning, however, for a couple of reasons. The fact of the matter is, most mantras are utilized for terrestrial events. You're trying to heal a sick child. You're trying to manifest something in your business. You're trying to get a given effect take place with the weather. This isn't always true, but in most of these cases, you need to have a fairly well-established astral level battery of energy in order to have something to essentially volt, if you're familiar with that technique, down into the physical. This is also the reason why many mantras come with a requirement that you have to perform a certain number of repetitions with that mantra, anywhere from a few thousand to a million in some cases, before the mantra actually becomes useful to the practitioner. With the 4-6-2 formula, I'm giving you something from Hermetics that appears to work quite well. Keep in mind the rules set up behind how you access a given egregore may in fact require significantly more effort than this. So these are all things to keep in mind before you really get involved with your mantric practice. But this is a way to generate effects in the near astral or physical that are in fact useful. Let us begin.